Why did they bring Jesus to me? By the time he had reached me, I'd been badly beaten, was severely bruised. They had clearly judged him already. So why was the crowd seeking my judgment? Then it became clear. The crowd was seeking more than just my judgment. They were seeking for me to sentence Jesus to death. After speaking with Jesus, it was obvious he was a good man. And I certainly could see no reason for him to be put to death. What was his sin? I suppose if he were guilty of anything, it would be angering the religious leaders. That's not punishable by death. I didn't want to be the judge. I didn't want to make a decision. So I told the crowd, take him to King Herod. Let him be the judge. A short time later, the crowd had returned with Jesus, except for this time they were demanding I judge him. Why was the crowd so adamant about my judgment? Besides, my heart was already heavy. I sympathized with Jesus. He was a good man, he did good works for people. He certainly wasn't deserving of anger and hatred being directed towards him and the punishment that he was receiving. So, I begged Jesus, tell me what to do. But he wouldn't. He just stood there and simply didn't respond. So to appease the crowd, I authorized that he be taken for punishment. I told them to make it severe, but that I did not want him killed. Sometime later, the crowd had returned with Jesus once again, except for this time I couldn't recognize him. What had they done? He was beaten beyond belief. He was bloodied all over. I told myself, this certainly couldn't be the reason. So I told them, I will take Jesus and I will authorize that you take him. Then the crowd, I authorized that he be taken for punishment. So then I offered them a choice. I said, spare Jesus, who's innocent, and I'll give you Barabbas, who's guilty. He's a known murderer, mind you. You can imagine my surprise when the crowd began to cry, crucify him! Crucify him! Crucify him! My mind was troubled. My mind was troubled. My mind was racing. So I decided to do the only thing that I could think to do in this situation. I washed my hands of the entire mess. I wasn't going to be the one to authorize the murder of an innocent man. You all have heard the story. Am I the reason that Jesus had to die? I mean, the people chose, not me. And besides, I gave Jesus an opportunity, and he simply didn't respond. So, I simply did nothing. Although I suppose something is better than nothing. I mean, I am Pilate. A decision would have been better than no decision at all. Does that make me guilty of Jesus' death? Am I really guilty?
I make decisions on a daily basis. Right from wrong, fair from unfair, to or wait, you guys get the point. Yet somehow, when it comes to more important decisions, I seem to struggle a bit more. It would be easier if someone just tell me what to do. You see, I'm a judge. Every day I decide people's fate in the court of law. Who's guilty and who may be innocent. Many times it's easy because I have all the evidence I need to make a fair and impartial judgment. I simply go by the facts. Then there's other times when deciding innocence is a bit harder. There was this one case I was presiding over recently where the prosecution gave a case of the man's guilt that I couldn't refute. Yet the defense gave a case of the man's innocence that I couldn't deny. I heard days of witness testimonies, some experts and others not so much. The only problem I could see with the case is the evidence. Most of it was circumstantial or not significant enough. That day, whether that man would be sentenced to life in prison or go free wouldn't be up to me. That would be up to the jury.
You just don't understand what happened. That night, the night he was taken, we were all having this special dinner together. When all of a sudden he says that someone at this table is going to betray him. What? I began to look around the table to see who it could possibly be. Peter, he had mentioned something about him betraying him. I don't know, Matthew, Bartholomew, Andrew. Surely he would tell us. So I waited and he said nothing. So I went to him and I said, is it I? And all he said was, you have spoken. What exactly is that supposed to mean? I thought it was a simple question, but clearly it was not. And I had to remember, this is Jesus. He will never give you the kind of answer you're looking for. I shouldn't have been surprised if he answered in some kind of a parable or story of some sort, like he did from time to time. But all of this is what leads up to what became my life-altering decision. You see, the religious leaders, they offered me 30 pieces of silver just to tell them who Jesus was. It was easy money, and I needed it at the time, traveling with the group all the time. And I mean, it's Jesus. He's a miracle worker. Surely he can get himself out of this one. Do you think this is the first time that they were trying to get him? And these rulers, religious leaders, they would have killed me if I didn't tell them who Jesus was. So, with a quick kiss, I betrayed my best friend. The man I had followed for years. And in that moment, it was done. There was nothing I could do to change it. They took him before the high priest, Caiaphas, and they put my friend on trial. A trial that would decide his fate. And the people, you should have heard these people. You should have seen their faces and scowls. They were so angry and began to mock him and spit on him. And do you know what he did? Do you know what he did? He did nothing. Absolutely nothing. He just stood there and took all these accusations. Why was he just standing there? Why didn't he do something? I couldn't watch anymore. I had to leave. Yet my mind was tormented. And what had I done? I needed the money at the time, and it seemed reasonable. Was it all my fault? Was the reason he was taken to be murdered? Brutally murdered. My fault. Am I guilty?
do very well for myself, and I will not apologize for that. I worked hard for everything that I have, and I make more money in 1 year than most people make in their entire lifetime. I really don't see a problem with it. I've got a beautiful family, a spectacular home. What else could I possibly need? All right, I see what you're thinking. You're probably wondering about my relationship with God. Well, I'd say it's pretty good. You know, I make it to a church service every now and then. Just to make my family happy. But come to think of it, when I was younger, I used to go all the time. And I did become very involved. But as life should have it, I got older and had more obligations to fulfill, and I just couldn't find the time anymore. Do you know, I actually had a friend of mine say that I was like Judas, selling out Jesus for money. What is he talking about? I did not sell Jesus out for money. I've simply made a success out of myself, and I see nothing wrong with that. I mean, come on, really. Just because I have money, that does not make me a sinner. How have I sinned? I'm thankful for everything that I have, and like I said before, I do work hard for it. Gosh, I mean, I really just don't have time for all these church services, and I don't feel like it's necessary, and I just don't have the time.